Hello and welcome to the final video lecture on system security, and today we're going to be looking at security policies and protection. So let's start with security policies. Network managers try to keep their network secure. The survival of their organizations sometimes depends on it. They use various methods to maintain the safety and privacy of the data in their care, but there are always vulnerabilities for hackers to exploit. Often the vulnerabilities are because of the careless behavior of the people who work with the system. The weakest aspect of many systems is the people who use it. So this is something that we looked at in the first video in this series when we looked at social engineering. The idea is that people are often the weakest part of any online security procedure because people can be fooled, people try and be helpful, people can be taken advantage of. The best security strategies can be easily defeated if the staff do not adhere to proper procedures. So you need good procedures, good security policies, and trained staff who follow these. A business needs to have in place security policies that drive the thinking and behavior of all employees. Security policies need to be simple so that they are well understood. Policies should state these basic points: what, how, why, when, and who. So what needs to be done, how the policies are to be implemented, the reason for the policies, the timing of the actions, such as backups and updates, and who does what. If the staff understand the basic security processes and why they're in place, they're more likely to adhere to them. So people are people. If they don't think the policies are worthwhile, if they think they're silly and time-consuming and getting in the way of their jobs, they're simply not going to follow them, and you're going to have security holes. Lack of clarity and understanding make any security policy weak. If the people do not know who is responsible for security procedures, they will not be carried out. Security policies need to be updated regularly. So let's look at some example areas of security policy. There are certain questions to ask when formulating any network security policy. What services are required for the business? Do employees need internet access to do their jobs? Do they need email? Can this email be provided securely? Do users need access to their internal network? Is this dependent on their job function? How can this be secured? Access to which parts of the internal network are needed by each employee? How are they restricted to just the parts that they need? Do customers need access to data via the internet? So again, some of this might seem a little dry, even a little boring, but you've got to make sure you answer these questions to make sure you have a sensible, safe security policy. For any network operation, the organization needs to ask, is it necessary for the operation of the business? So if you think about that, people working maybe on a factory floor are not going to need internal access to perhaps the email systems, to different parts of the internal network. They probably don't need internet access. Whereas somebody working in the finance office or marketing or research is going to need access to these different areas. It is possible with database management systems to assign appropriate privileges to each user so they can only access the data that is needed for their own job role. So the idea is the finance people have access to the financial information, but perhaps marketing, they don't need to know the finances of the business, they don't need to know the salaries of the employees. In the same way that human resources are going to need to know about disciplinary procedures, but other people aren't. Also, network operating systems can be fine-tuned to give each user permissions to access certain programs and certain folders. So again, not everybody needs access to the same programs, not everybody needs access to the same information. And we've got a little table over here, and that can, going on a little bit too far. And this just gives you some more information about policy areas. Things like acceptable use, passwords, email, the web, mobile devices, remote access, internet, wireless, servers, and an incident response plan. So you can look through that at your leisure, make some notes, just things you should be aware of about security policies. So let's look at penetration testing, sometimes called pen testing. In order to test the security of a network, a penetration test may be carried out in order to mimic a possible attack. This is used as part of a security audit. Typically, it tries out a variety of possible attacks on a network or system and determines whether these attacks are likely to succeed. It also tests the ability of the network and its staff to detect and counteract these threats. Penetration tests normally involve looking for a possible vulnerability, setting up an attack, carrying out the attack, and testing the ability to recover any compromised data after the attack. So there are security consultants out there, there are businesses that will carry out penetration testing. Essentially, this is legitimate hacking. You pay people to try and hack your network and then to give you a report about how successful they were and ways in which you can try and fix those vulnerabilities. So it doesn't matter how good your processes are, it doesn't matter how good your security setup is, you're not going to know if it's really good unless you try and get it broken. So pen testers are essentially hackers who are paid by you to try and break your system. There are a lot of software tools that can be used to automate these processes. So again, people can download the software from the internet or have it specially written, and this can aid in penetration testing, trying to look for common vulnerabilities to networks. So another way of helping secure a system is firewalls. Firewalls consist of software and or hardware placed between one network or node and another in order to control inbound and outbound traffic. So often this is between a home or business or office network and the internet. And the firewall is here, it's hardware or software, and it can just monitor all the traffic going into your network and all the traffic from your network going out to the internet, and check to make sure that it's valid and legitimate. The name firewall derives from the old practice of erecting barriers between buildings to prevent the spread of fires. Typically, computer firewalls are used as protective barriers between one's own network and the internet, where traffic can be unpredictable and possibly unsafe. So we're thinking like hacking attempts, denial of service attacks. We're thinking of possibly malware. If you've got a virus on your computer system that's trying to send out secure data, a firewall can prevent that reaching the internet and reaching the people who are trying to steal your data. Firewalls can be installed in servers, client computers, or routers, depending on where the control is required. This can be software, or it can actually be a hardware device, a box that you can plug in, and that again can have a set of rules to monitor the traffic across your network. Firewalls are the principal defense against DOS attacks, denial of service attacks. Packet filter firewalls inspect each data packet and assess it for certain characteristics that, if not met, result in the packet being dropped and not allowed through. Firewalls can also make decisions based on the originating IP Internet Protocol address of a message or the protocol used, which can be useful to reject, for example, spam email messages. So again, we have our firewall, our hardware or software. It can monitor all the data packets coming in from the internet, and it can check where they're coming from, whether they're legitimate, what protocol they're using. And the same way, when traffic comes out of our network, it can be monitored to make sure it's meeting the rules before it's sent to the internet. Nowadays, pretty much every operating system comes with a basic firewall built in, but often if you're running a big corporate network, you're going to have specialist hardware, specialist software to give you more control. And last but certainly not least, let's look at antivirus. So antivirus, or more correctly, anti-malware, protects against a range of malicious software using the following techniques. Signature list. Your antivirus is going to have a database of known viruses and other malware. When you run a scan, it's going to look through all the programs and files on your computer and check them against this signature list to see if they match. So it'll have a huge list of thousands and thousands of bad pieces of software, malicious software, and it can say, okay, this is what it looks like. And it can match it, and if it finds it, it can flag it up for you and delete it, quarantine it, etc. But again, this can only protect you against known threats, threats that have already been discovered in the past. To protect you against new threats, we've got what we call heuristics. And this is a feature of antivirus software that's become a lot more common and a lot more powerful in recent years. What it's doing is trying to protect you against unknown threats, because you've got to remember that there are thousands of new pieces of malicious software being released every day around the world. And what this does, heuristics involves looking at the behavior of a program to see if it acts like a piece of malware. Basically, if it looks like a virus and it acts like a virus, it's probably a virus and it needs to be stopped. So even though it's not on the signature list, maybe it's a new piece of malicious software, your program can still find it and isolate it and stop this from damaging your computer. And finally, we've got what we call real-time protection. This is when your software, your antivirus software, monitors your computer and attempts to prevent the malware from infecting it in the first place. So in the old days, the malicious software would infect your computer, and maybe every week or every month you'd run a scan, and then you would detect it and you would remove the virus. But obviously that can be a little too late. So real-time protection is kind of continuously monitoring your system and trying to stop this kind of infection getting into your computer in the first place. Okay, so I think that's enough for today. We've looked at security policies. We've looked at penetration testing, firewalls, and antivirus, and these are all ways to help mitigate threats to computer systems and networks. So please like, please subscribe, have a very good day, and good luck with your studies, and I'll see you in the next video.